Alright, guys, so the great thing about a 5v5 format that makes esports successful is a number of factors, actually. And yes, I do think it is the best format to run, and I'll explain why. First of all, you have people have a better connection with the actual players. If you have more than 5 people on your team, let's say like a soccer team has 11 players, it's hard for people to get behind as many guys. Maybe, or I mean, if it's like, I guess they get behind more the team, but it's also hard to keep all those guys together. So unless you have like a lot of momentum with people caring about it, it's hard for them to to get as engaged with those players. Point number two, it's easier to create a team of 5 players than it is more than that, especially in a grassroots sort of attempt, because getting 5 competent players to work together is already challenging enough. Having any more than that just adds an extra layer of difficulty. And also, and then the third point, most importantly, is the actual gameplay dynamics are more interesting. The more people you have, the more clusterfucky it gets, basically. And there's like a lot of stuff going on that isn't very interesting. A lot of neutralization happening, but in a 5v5, it always stays dynamic and the game can flip quickly, both in terms of what can happen in that game and also how many rounds, how easy it is to set up more rounds. Like, losing in 30 seconds in a 5v5 is better than losing in 20 minutes in a 15 versus 15, for example. It's just, even though the loss could be look very similar as far as why you lost, but one only took 30 seconds, the other you have to drag it on for like a certain amount of time. That's way longer, which is not interesting. And for World of Tanks, I think a draft and a 5v5 format can really take this amazing game platform to heights, to starry heights, we would say, inside of the shooter esports genre, which I really think there's so much potential for growth there, but the game hasn't made that transition to like having people, the community, set up that kind of a thing. And I have been researching, people have done 5v5 tournaments, usually in non-English speaking countries for the most part that I found, so it's hard to know what they're saying, but they are still lacking the tank drafting format, and that is really hampering the meta, so to speak, the sort of the game of which tanks people play. And it really starts concentrating on certain tanks that people feel are good, and that's honestly kind of lame. I mean, you don't want to watch in a 5v5 like 3 LTPs on a team, or like 3 auto loaders of a single kind on a team or something like that. So there has to be kind of a strict policy of one tank of that model, only one tank can be in that game, and that'll keep interest a lot higher and make a more, again, dynamic, varied approach to the game. As far as the tiers go, I think that's a big question. Which tiers are relevant for pros? In my opinion, you can technically do whatever tiers you want, but let's say in a tournament that has how many teams? Like 8 teams, right? So there's going to be the first set of 8, then it'll go down to 4, then it'll go down to the championship. So like in a 3-layer tournament like that, I would start with tier 8, go to tier 9, and then end at tier 10. And I guess you could, so you always, and then however many tiers of that tournament, I would just bring it down a level so that there is an interest, even just, you don't see the same tier 10s played over and over and over again, but there's like a game a deeper game even on that level. Like when you start the tournament, you starting at a lower tier of tank, and tier 8's great because you have a huge variety of tanks, right? And then you climb up to tier 9, and then at the finale you have, the ultimate tanks. I think that would be cool. If that's too difficult for people or people don't like it, I don't think that's necessary. You can just play tier 10s or like whichever, a single tier that you choose for the whole tournament. That's fine too, but I wouldn't personally prefer that. Then we get into actually even a more rigorous part of the meta, I think, that should be there in place, is that you can only have one of each type of tank. So one light tank, one medium tank, one heavy tank, one tank destroyer, and one artillery. And that will also limit people from doing something like 5 heavy tanks, and just try to like camp a corner with 5 heavy tanks. Potentially effective, but just super, super fucking lame to watch, right? So that's why you want to do it like that. And then it also will give roles a more, like, I want people to specialize in a role. I want, like, a guy who's really, really good at medium tanks playing medium tanks. I want a guy who's really good at heavy tanks playing heavy tanks. And I want to see what their true potential is instead of just, like, running something cheesy over and over. That would be great. I think we could all agree that would be great. Now, the only issue is how to set up these tournaments and how to get people interested in World of Tanks, particular for me in America, because I would say there's about 8,000 people playing on US West when I'm playing, between 5 and 15,000. We'll just put that. So that's like, the user base in the US isn't so great, but I would love to be playing in tournaments, and love to find a legitimate team. So I'm just, hopefully, if you are a good player, look me up, purely technical, on World of Tanks, and I want to set up some pro scene type of stuff, and to really build a nice grassroots pro scene in the Northwest, or on the West Coast, and, yeah. So that's the end of the video. Before I start rambling, I hope those ideas are helpful, and I will see you next time.